Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, lived a beautiful princess named Snow White. Her skin was as white as freshly fallen snow. Her lips were as red as a ruby, and her hair was as black as ebony wood. She was not only beautiful, but also incredibly kind, and every creature in the kingdom, from the birds in the trees to the deer in the forest, loved her dearly. But Snow White's stepmother, the queen, was a very different sort of person. She was a vain and cold-hearted woman whose greatest pride was her own beauty. Every single day, without fail, she would stand before her magical mirror and ask, "Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And every day, the mirror would faithfully reply, "You, O Queen, are the fairest of them all." This answer always filled the Queen with satisfaction. However, as Snow White grew, her beauty blossomed, and she became more and more lovely with each passing day. One morning, the Queen stood before her mirror and asked her usual question. But this time, the mirror's answer was different. It replied, "My queen, you are fair, it is true, but Snow White is 1,000 times fairer than you." The queen was consumed with fury and jealousy. She could not bear the thought of anyone being more beautiful than her. Her heart turned to stone, and she decided she must get rid of Snow White. She called for her most trusted huntsman. "Take the princess deep into the forest," she commanded, her voice dripping with malice. "And to prove you have done as I asked, bring me back her heart." The huntsman was a good man, and the thought of harming the sweet princess horrified him. But he was too afraid to disobey the powerful queen. He led Snow White into the deepest, darkest part of the forest. When he drew his knife, Snow White fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "Please, kind sir, spare my life," she begged. "I will run away and never return to the castle." The huntsman's heart was moved by her pleas. He couldn't bring himself to harm her. "Run, little princess," he whispered urgently. "Run and never come back." To trick the queen, he hunted a wild boar and took its heart back to the castle instead. The evil queen, believing Snow White was gone forever, was overjoyed. Meanwhile, poor Snow White was all alone in the vast, spooky forest. She ran and ran, terrified of the strange sounds and looming shadows. She ran until her little legs could carry her no further. Just as she was about to give up hope, she stumbled upon a small clearing, and in that clearing stood the most charming little cottage she had ever seen. Curiously, she knocked on the tiny door. When no one answered, she gently pushed it open and peeked inside. Everything in the cottage was tiny. There was a small table with 7 little chairs, 7 little plates, and 7 little cups. Upstairs, she found 7 little beds, all neatly made. The whole place was a bit messy, so Snow White, with her kind heart, decided to tidy up. She swept the floor, washed the dishes, and made everything neat and clean. Feeling exhausted from her long day, she lay down across the 7 little beds and quickly fell fast asleep. Later that evening, the owners of the cottage returned. They were 7 dwarfs who worked all day in the nearby mines, digging for jewels and gold. They were surprised to find their cottage door ajar and a light glowing from within. "Someone's been in our house," whispered one. They tiptoed inside and were amazed to see how clean and tidy everything was. Then they went upstairs and saw the beautiful princess sleeping on their beds. They gathered around, whispering in awe of her beauty. "Who is she? She's like an angel." Suddenly, Snow White woke up and was startled to see 7 little men staring at her, but they were all smiling kindly, so she wasn't afraid. She told them her sad story, and the dwarfs felt very sorry for her. "If you will cook and clean and keep house for us," said the eldest dwarf, "you can stay here and we will protect you." Snow White gratefully agreed. From then on, she lived happily with the 7 dwarfs. Every morning, they would go off to work in the mines, and before they left, they would always warn her, "Be careful, Snow White. Don't let anyone into the house. Your stepmother will surely find out you are still alive." And they were right. Back at the castle, the queen once again consulted her magic mirror. "Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" she asked, expecting to hear her own name. But the mirror replied, "Over the 7 jeweled hills beyond the 7th fall." In the cottage of the 7 dwarfs, Snow White is fairest of them all. The queen shrieked with rage. She had been tricked. Now she would take matters into her own hands. Using her dark magic, she disguised herself as an old peddler woman selling colorful laces for dresses. She traveled to the dwarf's cottage and knocked on the door. "Lovely laces for sale," she cackled. Snow White, remembering the dwarf's warning, was hesitant. But the old woman seemed harmless, and the laces were so pretty. She opened the door just a crack. "Let me help you try one on, my dear," the wicked queen said, and she tied a new lace onto Snow White's bodice. She pulled it tighter and tighter, so tight that Snow White couldn't breathe. The poor princess fainted and fell to the floor. The queen, thinking she was finally rid of her rival, hurried away, laughing. When the dwarfs returned that evening, they were horrified to find Snow White lying motionless. They quickly saw the tight lace and cut it. Air rushed back into Snow White's lungs, and she woke up, gasping. The dwarves were relieved, but sternly warned her again not to trust any strangers. The queen, back at her castle, was shocked when her mirror once again told her that Snow White was still the fairest. Consumed by hatred, she came up with a new, more devious plan. This time, she disguised herself as a different old woman and created a poisoned comb. She journeyed back to the cottage. Snow White saw her through the window and called out, "I'm not allowed to let anyone in. Just let me give you this beautiful comb, my dear," the queen said sweetly, holding it up. It was so beautiful that Snow White forgot her promise and let the old woman brush her hair with it. The moment the poisoned comb touched her head, Snow White fell into a deep, death-like sleep. When the dwarfs found her this time, they were heartbroken. They found the poisoned comb and removed it, but it was too late. Snow White didn't wake up. They cried and mourned for 3 days. She looked so peaceful and beautiful, as if she were only sleeping, that they couldn't bear to bury her in the cold ground. So they built a special coffin made of glass and gold and laid her inside. They placed the coffin on a hilltop so that all the forest creatures could come and pay their respects. Sometime later, a handsome prince from a neighboring kingdom was riding through the forest. He came upon the glass coffin and was captivated by the beauty of the princess lying within. He felt an instant deep love for her. He begged the dwarfs to let him take the coffin back to his castle, promising to cherish and protect her always. The dwarfs, seeing his sincere grief, finally agreed. As the prince's servants lifted the glass coffin to carry it away, one of them stumbled on a root. The jolt caused the piece of poisoned apple that was still lodged in Snow White's throat to pop out. Her eyes fluttered open, and she sat up, alive and well. "Where am I?" she asked, confused. The prince was overjoyed. He helped her out of the coffin and told her everything that had happened. He asked her to be his wife, and Snow White, seeing his kind and noble heart, happily accepted. Their wedding was a grand celebration, and everyone in the kingdom was invited. Even the evil queen. Blinded by her vanity, she came to the wedding only to discover that the new bride, the fairest in the land, was none other than Snow White. Her shock and rage were so great that she fled the castle and was never seen again. Snow White and the prince lived a long and joyful life together, ruling their kingdom with the same kindness and love that Snow White had always shown, and they all lived happily ever after. The story of Snow White teaches us that true beauty comes from a kind heart, not from a reflection in a mirror, and that goodness will always triumph over jealousy and hate.